Hello everyone, assalamu alaikum and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a video kind of walking you guys through how exactly to learn Arabic or study Arabic on your own or with a tutor. So basically I'm just going to be walking you through exactly what I've been doing this past year in Lebanon with a tutor. I would say this is something that is possible to do on your own, and the reason why I emphasize on your own is because the vast majority of the work will be on your own, but I think it's a smart idea to have a tutor at least once a week, probably better to be twice a week at the very minimum, to kind of check in with you, make sure you're doing your work, things like that. But if you're a very self-motivated learner, somebody who can get things done when they need to get it done, then learning on your own or learning with a tutor might actually be the better way to go for you. So like I said, I want to walk you through everything I've been doing. I'm going to talk about each individual subject within the Arabic language that I've been taking in order to understand the language as a whole. And I'm gonna also kind of give you examples showing you some of my books so that you can see like what kind of exercises am I doing. I don't think that the books that I use are commercially available like online or anything like that. I bought them at like a specific store in Lebanon. I don't think it would be easy to find these books online. I don't think I've been able to find these books online. But I'm gonna give you examples of the kind of books that I've been using. I just want to take a pause for a second so I can explain why I'm going to be giving you examples of the kinds of books I've been using, since you can't find my particular books online. I just want you to be able to recognize the books that are going to be giving you the types of exercises that you need when you look it up for yourself or trying to find workbooks for your own learning. I just want you to know what kind of exercises are you looking for, what kind of workbooks do you want to find. So I hope that when I do talk about that in this video, that you can find that useful when you're looking for your own books to use for your own Arabic learning. So yeah, I'm just gonna dive right into it. So I have this whiteboard here with me. It's kind of dirty, but that's okay. And I'm going to write down each subject that I've been taking, and then just explain what each one is. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 subjects. So this first one right here is tabir, and tabir is conversation. That's, I guess, the direct translation, but basically what it includes is, learning vocabulary. This is the class where you learn vocabulary, reading stories, like reading dialogues, maybe even memorizing them, doing dialogues in class, having conversations in class, writing stories once you've built up enough vocabulary to do so. That's like kind of what that is. So it's about vocabulary, and how you can use it in context. Imla is dictation. So dictation is basically where somebody will read something to you and then you have to write it down. So Arabic has its own script, as many of you know. It's not the same as the English script. So it's something that if you are coming from an English context, is that it's something that you would have to learn, and you need to learn, what are the rules for written Arabic, right? So in English we have that as well, like, I before E except after C. That's like an imla rule in English, but in Arabic they have rules like that too. A lot of the work entails copying text and then, having somebody read it to you in class and then you write it down, or, learning the rules of imla. That's also contained within the work of imla. Being able to differentiate similar letters, because there are 2 different letters in the Arabic language that in English sound very similar. So you need to be able to train your ear to differentiate between those letters. That's also within imla. So things like that. Then the next one is qira'ah. Qira'ah is reading. So basically it's training yourself to read in a fluid capacity. So again, when you're learning a new script and you're going from an English to an Arabic script, you need to become fluid in the way you read. If we're using an English script for a new language, it might be easier for us. But with Arabic, when you're learning from English, it's not the same script. So, Nani? What's wrong, Mama? You wanna go? Okay. One moment. Okay. So anyways, qira'ah is basically what the work entails is that you read texts. So in the beginning book, which I don't think I have it with me, but I have the second book, there are basically like I mean, I wouldn't, in my book, it's not really stories, but you could be reading stories. It starts out really basic, like, 5-line stories or 5-line, like, paragraphs or something like that. And then it progressively gets harder. And you learn the vocabulary as well, or that's what I've been doing. I learned the vocabulary that I have been reading in each of the, like, stories or texts or whatever. And that's also another way to build my vocabulary. And I actually do the same thing in Imla as well, going back, where I have texts that I'm going to be tested on, or somebody's going to read to me and then I need to write it down. I learn the vocabulary, and it makes it easier to spell as well by doing that. Okay, and then the next subject is sarf. And sarf it's like grammar, but specifically it's like conjugation. What you do in sarf is you learn all the different tenses in the language. So you learn past tense, future tense, present tense. You learn feminine and masculine for Arabic. So like, how do you change a word to be feminine, or how do you change it to be masculine? You learn like plurals, because plurals in Arabic they're more complex than English, because in English we usually just add s to the end of words to make something plural, but in Arabic there's a lot of different ways to make something plural. So you learn that in sarf. And it's a lot of it is just like tables, like where you're filling out a table of the conjugation. That's a lot of it. And then or putting, properly conjugated words in sentences, things like that. That is heavily what sarf is. And then nahu is something that you won't necessarily start in the beginning, because you need a base understanding of Arabic to start learning nahu. But basically what it is in Arabic, the way the script works, the vowels are written above the word. So a lot of the time, if you have a short vowel, it's written above the word. If you have a long vowel, it's written within the word. With the short vowels, each word is going to end on a certain kind of short vowel, unless you're stopping at that word. So if you're stopping at that word, there's no vowel at the end. But if you are continuing on with a sentence or whatever, or on with your speech, there is a vowel at the end. And that vowel at the end of the word changes based on what part of speech that word is, where in the sentence it falls. So my name or somebody's name, for example, could have a different vowel at the end depending on whether I'm the subject of the sentence or the object of the sentence, for example. So nahu is teaching you, okay, how do you speak Arabic in a fluid way where you're getting the part of speech markers, which are the short vowels at the end of the word, correctly. That's what I've learned so far. So I'm sure there's more complexity to the subject, but that's what I've learned so far, and that's kind of like the general gist in the beginning. These 5 subjects are the 5 subjects in Arabic I've been learning, and then on top of that, I've also, because my study is very much like religiously focused, I've also been memorizing a book of religion in Arabic, and I've been memorizing Quran, which is in Arabic, and then I've also been memorizing stories that are in a tabir book that are in Arabic to strengthen my vocabulary understanding and my understanding of the way that sentences are put together in a paragraph, basically. So those are the 5 subjects. So now I'm going to just show you some examples in the books I've been taking. If I was, starting out learning Arabic, these are the 5 subjects that I would aim to take. And I would aim to start out with the first 4, so tabir, imla, qira'an, and sarf. And then I would add nahu in as you progress. So I'm going to give you an example. This is my second tabir book. So my first tabir book was more simple. It was just like very basic dialogues, like, hi, how are you? What are you doing? Like, I'm playing with something. It was very, very simple. The second book is a bit more complicated. So you have like full-on texts here, and you have to like learn what each of the vocabulary means. And then there's exercises to fill out. Here you can see, and there's, sentences to write, things like that. This is a bit more like advanced than very beginner. So in the beginner book, like I was saying, it's like basic, and then you do basic exercises afterwards. And then once you're done with that book, you move on to a second one. So that's tabir. Imla, this is also, I think, the second book. But the second book and the first book were honestly not that different. Like in terms of the way they're set up, to be honest. For example, with this text, this text starts here and it ends here. And so then what I did here is I copied the text, and then I learned the words that were new to me, I had somebody read it to me, my teacher read it to me, and then I would write it down and see if I could do it just by hearing what she was saying. And of course, this is a long text, and you start out with things that are much shorter, like, for example, this length or shorter than that. So you start out with very short things. I think actually in reality, I think you start out with words. I think because when I started learning Arabic, I already knew the script a little bit. I kind of skipped the word phase, or I did very little of it, but that's basically where you would start. If you're going from 0, you would start with somebody reading words to you, and then you write them down, and then you move to sentences, and then you move to paragraphs, things like that. That's like the main kind of thing, but there's other kinds of exercises in Imla books as well. And we have Qira'a, and this is also the second book. The first book, the text would be a lot simpler. They'd be much shorter, but it's very much the same idea in both books. So it's like here you have a text, and like if you were in like the first book, it would be like this up. Basically, it would not be a long text at all, and it would probably be shorter than that, to be honest. And then you have here a list of key vocabulary to learn, but then also while you're reading the text, you want to like pick out the vocabulary you don't know, make sure you learn it. It's all about like building a vocabulary base. And so basically what you do is at home, you practice reading this. So you might read it like 3-4 times, however many times you need to feel like you're pretty fluid. And then once you go to class, you read it for your teacher, make sure that you're pronouncing everything correctly, make sure that you're being as fluid as you can be, things like that. And that's basically what the subject is. So you just practice reading, basically, and you focus on that. So that's Qira'a. And then we have Sarf, and this is my first Sarf book because I just finished it like right before the end of the year, right before I stopped taking classes, because I'm kind of taking a break right now. So I can show you what came in the beginning. So in the beginning, it was like we just were doing pronouns. That's also a part of Sarf. So in the beginning, it was just like these are the pronouns here, and then I was conjugating. I actually wasn't even conjugating anything. I was literally just writing the rest of the sentence, and I was making sure that I knew the pronouns and like memorized them and stuff. And then I moved on to past tense, and that's like the first tense you usually learn because it's easier. So yeah, that was pretty much Sarf. It's a lot of like tables, filling out tables, things like that, a lot of those kinds of exercises. And then the last thing, so with Nahu, I didn't have like a workbook. And that's something that I would like to find if I could, but I was taking information from my teacher and from this book called, I believe it's called Al-Ajrumiyya or something like that, but I'll double check. If I said that wrong, then I'll just like write what it actually is called. What I was doing for Nahu, and for a lot of other subjects too, for Sarf as well, is I would write down rules. So I was just writing down rules, and what I would do is I would memorize the rule, and then the rule would give me an indication of, you know, how to put the vowels at the end of words, what the vowels mean in the word. But in the beginning of Nahu, it's something more like this, and it's basically like, so you start out with like parts of speech like nouns and verbs, and then you talk about like the different kinds of sentences. I don't know if you guys can see this actually. You talk about like the different kinds of sentences, and like there are sentences in Arabic that are just like a noun and then another noun, and there's sentences where there's like a verb and a noun, and like it's talking about those different kinds of things. And then later on you just get into the more complicated rules that, you know, help you understand why you're writing certain things, or why you're saying certain things, certain vowels in words. So Nahu is definitely, I think, the most complicated of the subjects, the most difficult to explain if you don't have any understanding of the Arabic language, but it is something that I would recommend taking once you have a certain base. Yeah, so those are all the subjects, and that's kind of like the books that I've taken and the examples that I can give you. I hope this was helpful for anybody who's looking to learn Arabic. I know that I received a message on Instagram from a friend actually who wanted to also learn Arabic, and she wanted to understand like how I was doing it on my own. So kind of the goal of this video is just to explain that and to clarify to anybody who wants to learn Arabic for whatever reason. And if it's something that you're interested in learning, I'm hoping that this video can kind of like illustrate to you step by step, these are all the different things you need to master in order to master the language. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for you. Leave in the comments below if you have any questions about the method of learning Arabic or how to learn Arabic, something like that. And don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And I will see you guys next Tuesday, inshallah. Thank you so much for watching. Assalamu alaikum. Bye.
رسول الله صلى